Let's switch gears and turn our attention to another conflict. That's the war between Russia and Ukraine, or some would say Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We understand at least one person has been killed after Russia launched an overnight drone strike on the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. That attack also caused damage to critical infrastructure in the capital. Around 20 cars and a gas pipeline in a residential area were also damaged in the attack. According to Ukrainian officials, 78 attack drones were spotted over the city, most of which were shot down by air defenses. In the meantime, U.S. President Joe Biden says his country is committed to providing Ukraine with all the necessary support it needs to ensure it succeeds in its fight against Russia. He made this disclosure during the gathering of world leaders, including the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in New York. The EU and UK also are reiterating their support for Ukraine and recovery, as well as reconstruction of the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announcing a 35 billion euros package for Kyiv, while British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also announced a £3 billion in military aid. All right, let's get some updates now from the region and just get to bring in the VOA's correspondent, Anna Sherinikova, who joins us live now from Kyiv. Anna, it's always great to see you again. Let's begin with these overnight strikes in Kyiv. We understand that at least one person has been killed and there is severe damage to critical infrastructure. What else do we know about the impacts of this latest attack?
Good evening. This drone attack was yet another massive attack across the country, but the city of Kyiv and Kyiv region particularly were under attack this time under quite a big pressure and quite a severe attack as well. According to the local authorities, 1.5 dozen of drones were destroyed targeting Kyiv alone. And me personally, I was in the air defense actions in the early hours of Thursday. Very early in the morning, people woke up because due to the air raid alarm, and just a couple of probably 10 to 20 minutes after that, there were already sounds of air defense around the city and in the region mostly as well. In terms of the damages and casualties in Kyiv, no casualties were reported, but the damage of at least 4 residential buildings and around 20 vehicles were reported. Again, the situation is different in the region where the attack normally affects region more because air defense is working at the outskirts of the capital mainly. Also, other parts of Ukraine were affected. And after this massive drone attack, later in the morning, at around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, another air raid alert went off, and it was another attack, and this time it was the attack with Kinjal hypersonic missiles that were targeting airfield in the Khmelnytska region, which is in the western part of the country. At least 3 Kinjal missiles were reported by the Ukrainian Air Force. No information about damages or casualties, but again, we usually don't get details regarding the damage if we're talking about military targets.
Yes, Anna, look, President Volodymyr Zelensky is in New York after addressing the UN General Assembly. He's expected to meet with President Joe Biden, as well as Vice President Kamala Harris, and of course, former U.S. President Donald Trump, and present his victory plan. I'm just curious to know, will the comments by Russia's President Vladimir Putin last night about the new rules guiding his use of nuclear weapons. Will that impact on the victory plan of Mr. Zelensky or the discussions he's perhaps going to have with those three?
Well, at this point, what we know and what was confirmed that President Zelensky's meeting with President Biden and with Vice President and President candidate Kamala Harris. No confirmation regarding Trump meeting at this point, but President Zelensky has just posted a photo of him and his wife meeting with President Biden and Miss Biden, so Dr. Biden. So actually, well, the meeting is happening, and we might get some insight, some comments after the meeting from both presidents, and we'll see what they say. In terms of President Putin comments and announcement of new rules of the use of nuclear weapons, so the head of the Ukrainian president office, Mr. Yermak, commented on that, saying that this is yet another blackmailing and another try to stop Ukrainian allies to provide Ukraine with to give Ukraine the permission to use long-range missiles to strike the territory of Russia. So at this point, the head of Ukrainian president's office called this bluff from the President Putin side. But again, this is just something that we definitely do not know exactly if this will affect or not, because this only will be probably discussed behind the closed doors.
Yes. And Anna, how does the Ukrainian president defend his visits to the U.S.? Because Republicans in that country, the Senate precisely say his visit is meant to perhaps be a booster for the Vice President Kamala Harris campaign.
We all heard and we all saw the letter by Mr. Johnson, by the head of the U.S. House of Representatives as well, in addition to other comments. At this point, there is no particular left comment on that particular case and in general to the accusation. So we do not hear any comments from President Zelensky himself or his office or or the ministry or the embassy of Ukraine in the U.S. On the other side, we hear that President Zelensky, in his every speech, is thankful and saying the words of thank you to both parties, and he emphasized that it's crucially important for Ukraine that U.S. continue the bipartisan support of Ukraine. So. Bipartisan support. So definitely such statements by Mr. Johnson particularly make Ukrainians here inside the country worry that this might kind of affect the perception of Ukraine by the U.S. nation, which is, of course, taken very seriously. And I should say that it really was you can feel a lot of and see a lot of sadness within the Ukrainian society, because no one in Ukraine wants the relations with the U.S. to be worsened in any way. So everyone here is hoping that this situation will be resolved, but again, no comments from President Zelensky yet.
And another, there's also the war now between Israel and Hezbollah. I'm just wondering, does Ukraine feel the current conflict between the Israeli Defense Forces and Hezbollah? And of course, perhaps as leaders continue to watch developments carefully, how are Ukrainians reacting to that war? And does it have any direct impact whatsoever on Ukrainians?
Well, definitely Ukrainians, as you know, probably are those who can understand what people of both sides of the conflict feel, because Ukrainians go through the full-scale invasion themselves, and of course Ukrainians don't want this to happen to any nation. And of course the tension is high because everyone understands that a conflict between Israel and Hamas is actually affecting also the attention to the war in Ukraine. So I should say that it looks like that this two conflicts, two wars which are happening are just demonstrating the state of the political situation across the globe, because we see two big conflicts happening at the same time. Of course, they are different. Of course, different history behind, but still, this is happening at the same time. And for Ukrainians, it's important that Ukraine is not getting the attention away. But it's not only about, of course, attention, but also about Ukrainians just, feel sorry for all the nations who are going through such huge grief and such huge, huge tragedy as war, and as well as a lot of Ukrainians have relatives in the countries as well as in Israel, and also have relatives in other countries which are involved in a number of countries. This conflict going wider and spreading is definitely not a great sign. And for Ukrainians, as well as I said, especially with all this understanding of how people might feel.
Well, Anna, we also know that Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, part of the reasons why he's in the UN Assembly is to try to press the US and allies to see how he can perhaps use some of the military aid to attack Russia. But we'll see how that goes. The war, it's been almost 1,000 days. And we're tracking all of that to see how events unfold. But we can only hope that things get better there in Ukraine. We must thank you most kindly for your updates. Anna Shorinikova live for us in Kyiv. As always, Anna, great to see you again. And please stay safe.
Thank you.
And earlier we had told you that U.S. President Joe Biden says his country is committed to providing Ukraine with all the necessary support it needs to ensure it succeeds in its fight against Russia. He made the disclosure during the gathering of world leaders, including the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in New York. Take a listen to Mr. Biden.
I'm determined to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs to prevail in its fight for survival. Tomorrow, I will announce a series of actions to accelerate support for Ukraine's military. But we know Ukraine's future victory is about more than what happens on the battlefield. It's also about what Ukrainians do to make the most of a free and independent future. We're committed to providing Ukraine with the resources it needs to build back stronger than it was before. This war has shown the Ukrainians can do anything they set their minds to. Today, we show the Ukrainians you're not alone. You're not alone in this fight. You're not alone in the reconstruction that comes after.
I'm grateful to all of you for your unity in protecting lives. We previously gathered at the NATO summit in Vilnius to strengthen our defense cooperation. We do value the G7 Security Declaration and the 26 bilateral security agreements, which fortify us all. And now more than 30 countries and the EU have agreed to the declaration, truly strong declaration focused on rebuilding Ukraine after the hostilities. After the devastating Second World War, the Allies launched the Marshall Plan, which gave peace the strength to become truly lasting. And today we are laying the foundation for a similar architecture of recovery, one that will promote peace for Ukraine and all of Europe and the general welfare.
In a few weeks, the world will mark 1,000 days of Russia's full-scale invasion. So many innocent people have been killed. So many cities have been razed to the ground. So many families have been torn apart. Peace is a settlement that makes war impossible and unnecessary. We must put Ukraine in the strong condition of negotiating such peace. And this is why the integration of Ukraine in the European Union is for us at the heart of our peace efforts. And I'm pleased to confirm that Europe will be providing up to 35 billion euros. This loan will be repaid by the windfall profits of the immobilized Russian assets. In other words, it is Russia who pays for the damages it caused.
Russia's invasion is against everything the UN stands for. So it must be met with strength. International law must be upheld. That is why the UK has committed to provide £3 billion in military aid every year for as long as it is needed. And it's why we're investing in Ukraine's defense industry. We must redouble our efforts to help Ukraine push back and show Putin he cannot win this illegal war.